With what's happening around the world, you and I would know we could expect World War III. Well, what exactly is America's role in this? And how exactly do we see the next World War coming? Let's see it in today's episode. Hey folks, welcome back to another exciting episode of War News. Today, what are you guys waiting for? Like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit the bell icon so that you don't miss out on any of the stuff that is waiting for you here. So far, Russia's attack on Ukraine continues. However, we could say World War III has never been more close. As Russian soldiers hammered Kyiv and other towns, Western nations have been exceedingly wary to avoid direct combat with President Vladimir Putin. And that's the man who possesses the world's greatest nuclear arsenal, and has made no secret of it. Meanwhile, Western allies are delivering weaponry and other equipment to Ukraine, but have ruled out implementing a no-fly zone. The European Union is sending air defense systems, but has refused Ukraine's request for fighter planes, and there has been no offer of soldiers from any country. Nonetheless, senior Western government officials, diplomats, and military strategists recognize that the United States and other NATO allies are now at severe risk of being dragged into the conflict, at nearly any time, as a result of any number of scenarios. One is an error. They launch a missile towards Poland. That is not impossible, and it rapidly rises. Or the outrage against crimes against humanity is so high that America feels required to take what they believe to be restricted and prudent action. The imposition of a no-fly zone results in the death of Russians. Anything they do that leads to the death of Russians takes the whole world towards World War III. Throughout the 8 months of conflict in Ukraine, President Joe Biden has maintained a consistent stance on the Russian invasion. His objective is to assist Ukraine in winning, while simultaneously ensuring that success does not trigger a third world war. However, as Russian forces have suffered military reverses because of the US assistance in recent days, Putin has responded by increasing the pressure. Negotiating now would appear to be an enormous surrender in and of itself to Putin's brutality and willingness to threaten nuclear war. However, it is not just Trump supporters who have increased their calls for a negotiated solution since Putin began pledging to employ all available weapon systems in early September, and caution that this is not a bluff. Over the weekend, Biden's national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, threatened Putin with a devastating reaction if he used battlefield nuclear weapons in Ukraine. American military authorities have not likely created a ton of serious choices for the US to take in such a situation, including immediately entering the fight on Ukraine's side, the Third World War scenario that Biden has been so adamant about avoiding. Curious to know how it goes? Stay tuned to the end of the video. Before moving on, make sure to subscribe to War News Today. Moving on. But what did Putin really want? The Russian leader's first goal was to invade Ukraine and topple its government, thereby putting a stop to the country's aspirations to join the Western Defense Alliance, NATO. After a month of setbacks, he abandoned his attempt to conquer Kyiv and shifted his focus to Ukraine's east and south. When he launched the invasion on February 24th, he told Russians that his purpose was to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine. His stated goal was to safeguard those who had been subjected to what he described as 8 years of bullying and genocide by Ukraine's government. Another goal was quickly added, maintaining Ukraine's neutral status. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov spoke of liberating Ukraine from oppression, while Foreign Intelligence head Sergei Naryshkin stated that Russia's future and role in the world were at risk with this action. Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukraine's democratically elected president, stated that the adversary had classified him as a target number 1, with his family as target number 2. According to his advisor, the Russian military attempted to breach the presidential complex twice. Russia's Putin declined to label the situation as an invasion or a war. Moscow continues to refer to Europe's worst conflict since 1945 as a unique military operation. The charges of Nazis and genocide in Ukraine are entirely baseless, but they are a part of the story that Russia has been repeating for years. Ukraine's foreign prime minister, Dmitry Kuleba, said that it's insane. Sometimes they can't even describe what they're talking about. However, an editorial article published by the state-run news outlet RIA Novosti said firmly that denazification ultimately leads to de-Ukrainization, thereby eliminating the existing state. As we spoke before, it is Russia that is now being accused of war crimes by the world community. Several countries, like the United States and Canada, go so far as to declare a genocide. After so much devastation, Putin's words suddenly rang out hollow. He said that it was not their intention to take Ukrainian land. They did not seek to impose anything on anybody by force. And as the unjustified conflict with Ukraine enters its 9th month, there is little chance that it will end soon. Rather, the conflict looks to be on the rise. Recently, Putin declared that he would call up 300,000 service members, and his accompanying address included some frightening warnings. Referring to the West's nuclear blackmail of Russia, Putin stated that his nation has different methods of devastation, and, if threatened, would absolutely employ all the tools at its disposal. This follows Russia's alleged hostile actions near a Ukrainian nuclear power facility in August. Shocking new findings from a global study reveal that the globe is taking these risks and their larger global consequences seriously. In a study of over 17,000 people from around the world, 3/4 agreed with the assertion that we are on the verge of World War III. In 5 nations, the numbers of individuals who believed that the world was on the verge of war increased to beyond 80%. And that's from Indonesia, South Korea, Spain, Thailand, and the United States. Those aged 25 to 35 were the most concerned, with 76% concerned about nations coming closer to another global conflict. The critical word here is closer, which is roughly comparable phrase, and I believe anybody might agree that we're a little bit closer than we were a year ago. But would I read that as a cause to believe that Armageddon is approaching, and that we should all begin stockpiling items in our basements? No way. I don't see it that way. Other experts say there's no need to panic. They do not feel the situation is that bad. They believe Putin's new warnings are more a reflection of Russia's lack of success in Ukraine and its deteriorating global status. Putin's hostile tone dates back to the Cold War. Many of us perceive Putin's language as a semi-optimistic reminder to his adversaries of the notion of mutually assured destruction, a type of reciprocal deterrence. Not only that, but these threats force action and meaningful agreements on weapons limitations discussions with Russia. The START deal between Russia and the United States, which limits the range of intercontinental nuclear missiles, will expire in 2026, and maybe we'll see some action in 2026. You see, the entire purpose of possessing a nuclear arsenal is to prevent and deter assaults on your land. Beyond that, they become a menace to the entire world. Indeed, while the United Kingdom and the United States watched in horror as Russia formed together a force capable of invading Ukraine, they quickly called back their small contingent of military trainers and advisors. Even the bustling Ukrainian capital Kyiv and other cities will be vulnerable to attack, as long as Russia's prospective invading army is on the borders. However, if Russia challenges a NATO member state, it will mark a red line for NATO in the West. Article 5 of the NATO Treaty obligates the Western military alliance to defend any member under attack. Ukraine is not a part of NATO, despite its stated desire to be one, something which President Putin is determined to prevent. Moreover, the United Kingdom, the United States, and several European nations have imposed sanctions on Russia in the wake of the invasion. Russia will now undoubtedly respond in some way, whereas Western corporations in Moscow are likely to suffer if Putin so chooses and might escalate. Cyber attacks, which the experts in Australian PM Scott Morrison have already warned against, can be used as revenge. These could target banks, individuals, corporations, and even essential national infrastructure, and are notoriously difficult to trace. The hardship now is that Russia and the West have almost no confidence left after years of deteriorating relationships with Moscow. And it is a risky setting against which to have a public spat about who is to blame for Ukraine's current turmoil. Time will tell if the current turmoil escalates into World War III, but it is negatively impacting the world now. Anyways, do you guys think that Putin is trying to become a menace to the entire world? Drop your views in the comment section below. Make sure to subscribe to our channel if you want to see more videos like this one. Also, refer to other videos on our channel. We'll see each other again at the next one. Goodbye.